October 2nd, 1954, backstage at Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. Elvis Presley stands holding a crumpled WSM backstage pass in his fist. 19 years old, pink shirt soaked with sweat. Jim Denny, the Grand Ole Opry's talent coordinator, just delivered the sentence that would haunt country music for half a century. Go back to driving trucks, son. 2,000 people in that audience barely clapped after Elvis performed Blue Moon of Kentucky. Hank Snow brought him here, promised this would change everything. Now the pass feels like a ticket to nowhere. What Elvis does in the next 48 hours will turn the Opry into the institution that rejected rock and roll. They have no idea he's about to break every rule they just enforced. This is the same stage where Hank Williams was banned 2 years before he died. The rejection wasn't about talent. It was about something the Opry couldn't control. One phone call 3 days later will expose what they really turned away. Summer, 1954. Memphis heat thick enough to drown in. Elvis Presley drives a Crown Electric Company delivery truck through the streets, electrical supplies rattling in the back. Days, he's installing wiring in houses across the city. Nights, he's at Sun Records on Union Avenue, recording something nobody's heard before. Sam Phillips sits in the control booth, watching this 19-year-old truck driver do something impossible, blend blues, country, and gospel into a sound that doesn't have a name yet. That's All Right sold 20,000 copies in Memphis alone by July. The secret is this. Elvis already knows he's different, but the music industry doesn't. Not yet. Hank Snow, country music royalty, hears the record and makes a call. Gets Elvis an audition slot for the Grand Ole Opry in October. Gladys Presley watches her son rehearse in their small apartment, tells him, "They won't understand what you're doing." On his dresser sits his driver's license next to a Sun Records acetate. Two versions of the same person. Only one will survive what's coming. The Grand Ole Opry in 1954 is country music's only gatekeeping institution. If you want a career, you need the Opry. If the Opry rejects you, you drive trucks. Jim Denny controls everything. Who gets on stage, who gets banned, who becomes a star. 2 years earlier, Hank Williams played drunk, got kicked out, died 4 months later in the back of a Cadillac. The Opry has one rule: traditional country, no deviation, no experiments. Elvis's sound, blues mixed with country mixed with something unnameable, breaks that rule completely. Denny's job is to protect the brand, keep it safe, keep it familiar. In September 1954, an envelope arrives at Elvis's apartment. WSM letterhead, typed on official stationery. Inside, a backstage pass for October 2nd, 1954. One song, one chance. His name is misspelled, Elvis Presley. He stares at that misspelling for an hour. The Opry doesn't even know who he is. They will. The pass sits on his kitchen table like a verdict waiting to be delivered. September 1954. Elvis rehearses Blue Moon of Kentucky 500 times. Bill Monroe's original version is slow, sacred, traditional bluegrass, a hymn to Kentucky's rolling hills. Elvis's version is faster, louder, dangerous. He speeds up Monroe's waltz time, turns it into something that makes your hips move whether you want them to or not. Sam Phillips listens to the rehearsals, tells Elvis, "They're gonna love it or hate it. There's no middle ground with this." Elvis tells his mother, "If this works, everything changes." October 1st, he climbs into a car with Scotty Moore on guitar and Bill Black on bass. They drive 6 hours to Nashville, arrive 18 hours early. No money for a hotel. They sleep in the car outside Ryman Auditorium, waiting for the doors to open. Dawn breaks over Nashville. Elvis checks his hair in the rearview mirror, smooths his shirt. The backstage pass sits in his pocket. By tonight, it'll either be a souvenir or a death certificate for his music career. Nobody sleeps. Nobody talks. They just wait. October 2nd, 1954, 6 p.m. Elvis stands backstage at the Ryman, holding his guitar like a weapon. Hank Snow introduces him to Jim Denny. "This kid's got something you need to hear." Denny looks at Elvis. Pink shirt, hair too long, sideburns too dark. Different. Wrong. Other performers whisper in corners. "Who's the truck driver?" Ernest Tubb, country legend, pulls Elvis aside. "Just play it straight, son. Give them what they know." Elvis realizes in that moment what they're expecting. They want him to sound like Bill Monroe. Play it slow, respectful, traditional, the way country music has always been played. He makes a decision right there backstage. He's going to play it exactly how he recorded it. Fast, loud, dangerous. His hands shake as he adjusts his guitar strap. Minnie Pearl, backstage waiting for her set, watches him with something like pity. She'll later say, "The crowd didn't know what hit them." At 9:47 p.m., Elvis walks toward the stage. The backstage pass that got him here is already soaked with sweat in his pocket. The future of American music is about to happen in the next 2 minutes and 38 seconds. 9:47 p.m., Elvis walks onto the Grand Ole Opry stage. 2,000 people packed into the Ryman Auditorium. WSM radio broadcasting live to millions across the South. He steps up to the microphone, introduces Blue Moon of Kentucky. His voice cracks on the first word. First chord, faster, harder than anyone in that room expected. Scotty Moore's guitar cuts through the sacred air of the Ryman like a switchblade. Elvis starts moving. Hips, legs, something the Opry stage has never seen before. The movement isn't planned. It's physical response to the rhythm, but it looks like rebellion. The crowd responds with confusion, scattered applause, uncomfortable silence, people shifting in their seats. Jim Denny watches from the wings, arms crossed, shaking his head. 2 minutes and 38 seconds. That's how long the performance lasts. The spotlight catches Elvis's pink shirt, turning it blinding white against the wooden stage. When the song ends, the applause is polite, distant, cold. Elvis walks off stage thinking he crushed it. Adrenaline tells him he just changed everything. He has no idea what's about to happen in the next 5 minutes. Elvis walks off stage, heart pounding, thinking he just became a star. Hank Snow avoids eye contact. That's the first sign something's wrong. Jim Denny approaches through the backstage crowd, face set like stone. "Son, you better keep driving that truck." Elvis blinks. "But the record's selling..." Denny cuts him off. "This is the Grand Ole Opry. We don't do that here." No contract, no callback, no second chance. The backstage pass in Elvis's hand suddenly feels heavy. He crumples it, shoves it into his pocket. Scotty Moore will later tell people, "I've never seen a man look that destroyed." Other performers avoid looking at Elvis as he packs up his guitar. The same people who whispered about him before now pretend he doesn't exist. This rejection will become legend. Every Elvis biography mentions it. Every documentary shows the Ryman Auditorium when they tell this part of the story. But in this moment, October 2nd, 1954, backstage in Nashville, it just feels like the end. The pass in his pocket, wrinkled and stained with sweat, is supposed to be the beginning of everything. Instead, it's a receipt for failure. 3 a.m., October 3rd, 1954. Elvis drives back to Memphis in silence. Highway stretches out empty and dark. He doesn't throw away the backstage pass, keeps it in his wallet. Bill Black tries to lighten the mood. "Forget them. Sam's got a plan." But Elvis isn't listening. He's thinking. The Opry rejected him because they're terrified. What they heard wasn't wrong. It was the future. And the future scares institutions that built their power on controlling the past. The ordinary truth hits him somewhere between Nashville and Memphis. The Opry's power only works if everyone obeys. The moment someone breaks the rules and succeeds anyway, the whole system cracks. Elvis makes a decision in that car at 3 in the morning. He's never going back to the Opry unless they beg, unless they come to him on their knees. The dashboard light catches his wallet on the seat next to him. The backstage pass is visible through the plastic window. He could throw it out the window right now, let it blow away on some Tennessee highway. But he doesn't. He keeps it. Something about that rejection feels important, like evidence he'll need later. Proof of what happened the night country music chose to die. October 16th, 1954, Shreveport, Louisiana. Elvis performs on the Louisiana Hayride. The Hayride is everything the Opry isn't. Younger, wilder, willing to take risks. The moment Elvis starts Blue Moon of Kentucky, the crowd erupts, screaming, chaos, teenage girls rushing the stage like they're trying to touch something holy. Horace Logan, the Hayride's producer, watches from the booth with dollar signs in his eyes. After the show, Logan makes Elvis an offer. "We'll give you every Saturday night, $18 per show." Elvis signs the contract with the same pen he uses to clock in at Crown Electric. The Louisiana Hayride broadcast reaches the same Southern audience as the Grand Ole Opry. Within 3 weeks, Elvis is the Hayride's biggest draw. Letters flood the station. Requests pour in. Every Saturday night, the Shreveport Municipal Auditorium fills with kids who want to see the truck driver who moves like nobody else. Between October 1954 and March 1956, Elvis will appear on the Hayride more than 50 times. But in this moment, October 16th, 1954, 2 weeks after the Opry rejection, Elvis realizes something crucial. He doesn't need Nashville. The audience will find him anyway. The revolution doesn't require permission from the institutions it's about to destroy. January 1955, Nashville. Jim Denny hears reports that make his blood cold. Elvis is selling out every show. Kids are driving hours to see him. Radio stations are playing That's All Right on repeat. RCA scout Steve Scholes starts attending Elvis's performances, taking notes, making calls back to New York. The Opry bookers realize what they rejected in October is now the hottest act in the South. Denny calls Hank Snow. "Can we get the truck driver back?" Snow's response is ice. "You told him to quit music. Why would he come back?" The Opry makes a quiet offer through back channels. Elvis declines. Meanwhile, Colonel Tom Parker, a carnival promoter turned talent manager, starts managing Elvis. Parker sees the long game, sees that Elvis doesn't need the Opry needs Elvis. By mid-1955, Elvis is outselling every Opry regular except Hank Snow. Billboard charts show it clearly. The old guard is stalling while this truck driver from Memphis climbs higher every week. The backstage pass from October 2nd, 1954 stays in Elvis's wallet. Not as a souvenir, as a reminder. When institutions tell you no, it means you're doing something they can't control. And what they can't control, they'll eventually have to beg for. November 1955. RCA Records buys Elvis's contract from Sun Records for $40,000, largest contract in music history at that time. Sam Phillips uses the money to keep Sun Records alive, sign other artists who will change music too. Elvis moves into RCA's Nashville studios, same building where the Grand Ole Opry records its shows. Jim Denny sees Elvis in the hallways now. They pass each other. Denny looks away, pretends nothing happened. But everyone knows. Everyone remembers October 2nd, 1954. The discovery is complete now, crystallized and undeniable. Elvis didn't need the Opry. The industry was changing underneath their feet while they were busy protecting tradition. The Opry's power was always an illusion that required artists to believe in it. Elvis stopped believing, and the illusion shattered. The RCA deal makes front-page news in Variety, Billboard, the Nashville Banner. Photographs of the $40,000 check get published in newspapers across the country. In those photos, Elvis is smiling. 20 years old, holding more money than his father earned in a decade of factory work. The truck driving days are over. The kid the Opry dismissed is now too big for them to ignore. And he's just getting started. 1956 explodes. Heartbreak Hotel hits #1 in March. Hound Dog hits #1 in August. Don't Be Cruel hits #1 in September. Elvis appears on Ed Sullivan, Milton Berle, Steve Allen. Television dominates radio, and Elvis dominates television. The Opry invites him back 6 times in 1956. 6 times, he says no. By December 1956, Elvis has sold more records than the entire Grand Ole Opry roster combined. Jim Denny loses his job. Opry management blames him for the Elvis rejection, the decision that cost them the future. Elvis keeps the October 2nd, 1954 backstage pass in his wallet through all of 1956. Carries it through every television appearance, every concert, every moment of skyrocketing fame. The pass, now faded and worn, sits next to his RCA gold records when photographers come to Graceland. In one photograph from late 1956, you can see it on his desk, a small piece of wrinkled paper next to plaques certifying millions of records sold. The contrast is everything. The pass that was supposed to grant him entry to country music's elite now serves as evidence of how wrong they were, how completely they misunderstood what was happening right in front of them. December 3rd, 1968, the Elvis Comeback Special airs on NBC. 14 years after the Opry rejection, 42% of all Americans watch it. Largest television audience of the year. The special proves Elvis is still the king, while the Grand Ole Opry has become irrelevant to national culture. Rock and roll didn't just win, it conquered. According to people close to Elvis, the Opry sent a formal apology letter sometime in late 1968. Never made public, never acknowledged. Elvis finally removes the backstage pass from his wallet after the comeback special airs. 14 years he carried it. He frames it, hangs it in Graceland's music room, tells his father Vernon, "That pass taught me everything I needed to know. The lesson, rejection from the old guard means you're doing something right, means you're ahead of them, moving faster than they can understand." The '68 comeback special revitalized Elvis's career, led to his Las Vegas residency, proved he could reinvent himself whenever the moment required it. The framed pass hangs on the wall, a daily reminder of the night Nashville said no to the future, and how little their no actually mattered. Elvis never performed at the Grand Ole Opry again. Not once. Not ever. By the time he died in 1977, he'd sold over 500 million records. The Grand Ole Opry's refusal to adapt nearly killed it. Rock and roll took over American music while country retreated to a niche. In 2007, 30 years after Elvis's death, the Opry inducted him into its Hall of Fame. 53 years after the rejection. The October 2nd, 1954 backstage pass is now worth an estimated $100,000. Collectors call it one of the most significant artifacts in music history. Jim Denny's sentence, "Go back to driving trucks," became the most expensive sentence in music history. The Opry learned too late what every dying institution learns. You can't control the future by rejecting it. The pass, yellowed with age, still bears Elvis's name misspelled. The same pass that once meant nothing now symbolizes the revolution they tried to stop. Sometimes the biggest mistake isn't saying no. It's believing you have the power to stop what's already coming.